All right, so now that I know I have to use the -2 and the +7, I am going to break up this b value, the 5x. I'm going to break that up into the -2 and the 7. I'm going to do a -2x and a 7x. -2 plus 7 is 5. Okay. The rest of it's going to stay the same. I still have the plain 2x squared at the beginning. I still have the -7 at the end. And it still is all multiplied by 3. Okay, I just broke up that middle term, the b value, into the two numbers that we came up with, the -2 and the 7. All right, so now I'm going to do what I did in purple here. I'm going to group. It's called factor by grouping. I'm going to group those first two together, and I'll group the last two together. It's all about a GCF, a greatest common factor. So the greatest common factor out of my first group. Let's see, I see they both have a 2. And I think they both have an x as well. So I'm going to factor out 2x, which gives me a x minus 1. All right, let's do the GCF on my second group. I'm factoring by grouping. So my second group has a GCF of, I think it's just straight up 7, no x's or anything. I can factor a 7 out of both of them. I'm left with an x minus 1 again. Now this kind of shows me if I did it right. If I did it right, they should have had the leftovers match. And I still have this 3 outside all this. All right, so what they should have in common, because I'm going to do another greatest common factor, it's just a really big thing that they have in common. They both have an x minus 1 in common. So I'm going to factor out the x minus 1. Underline it there. There's my x minus 1 that I have in common, which means I still have leftovers of a 2x and a positive 7. So I have the 2x plus 7 left, and I still have the 3 out front as well. So 3 times x minus 1 times the 2x plus 7. That is about as factors as it's going to be right there. There's our final answer. Okay, do you guys have any questions on number 1 here? Yeah. You guys online? You doing okay? All right. So yes, the simplest form, like the form that has been factored down as much as possible. Okay, so then let's have you guys work on number 2. I still start with the GCF like we did yesterday. But then I pick it up with the steps that we had in that chart. So go with number 2 here, and then we'll see what we got. GCF, that's good. Nice factoring. Good, good. Oh, that's later on. There you go. Yeah. So Damien, what was your GCF? Yep. Nice. So yeah, it looks like we got a GCF of, was it 4? Is it? Mm-hmm. We factored out a 4 though?
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, it doesn't matter if you factor out a positive 4 or a negative 4. So I don't know if anybody did a negative 4. Either way. All right. I think I saw most people do a negative or do a positive 4. All right. So if I factor that out, nice. So yeah, the 4 times 14 is your 60. Yeah. Is that what you said? Oh, negative 4 times 15. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, and then we've got to break our 15x in this case, we've got to break it into pieces. So we got to look at factoring. I'm going to do the stuff that I had in yellow. All right, so I got to figure out what number I'm going to even factor. So Braden, you there, hon?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, Braden. So at this point, I'm gonna do the stuff I did in yellow where I need to figure out what I'm even factoring. So what'd you get in yellow here? What's your AC?
Like what it equals or the factors of what it equals?
Let's do both. Just get what it equals and then factor it.
Okay. I got negative 30 for what it equals.
Negative 30?
Yeah.
So how'd you get the AC again? How'd you do it?
Isn't it the negative 2 times 15?
Oh, close. Negative 2 times, like up here, I did a positive 2 times the negative 7. So I'm gonna do a negative 2 times, in this case, a negative 7.
Okay.
So I got a positive 14 in this case. So then what are the factors of 14?
Do you want me to answer that or?
Yeah, you're pretty much gonna do the stuff I have in yellow.
Oh, okay. There's 7 and 2 and 3 and 4.
7, 2, 3, and 4. All right, any other options?
I mean, there's 1 and 14.
1 and 14, okay. In fact, I think 3 times 4 is a 12. So for the 14, I think kind of my only options are either a 7 and a 2 or a 1 and a 14. The only difference is I can also have a negative 7 times a negative 2 is 14, a positive 14, or negative 1 and a negative 14 also multiply to be a positive 14. Okay, so these are all my options. All right, it looks like we kind of got kicked out here. I'm gonna try to turn this on real quick. So let me change. All right, there we go. All right, so we've got out of all of these options. All right, so Josiah, are you there today, hon? It's okay. We'll reach out to Natalie. You there, Natalie?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, so Natalie, we got to use, out of all the factors he came up with, which ones would you choose? Are you going to go with the 7 and the 2, -7, -2, 1, 14, -1, -14? Which group are you going with? So you go with the -1 and the -14. Okay, if you go with those ones, it should add up to a +15, which actually, I think those add up to a -15, so you're close. We're just gonna go with, let's go with the +1. So you're close, +1 and +14. Oh yeah, if you did a -4 as your GCF, that's true. Kick us out again. All right, so yeah, if you guys did factor out a -4, then the other signs would have been different than what we have. So in this case, I'm gonna then rewrite my 15x as what we chose, the 1 and the 14. It's gonna be like a 1x, a +1x, and a +14x. All right, the rest of it will stay the same. We've still got the -2x squared. I've still got the -7. All right, and so Natalie, if you did factor out a -4 instead of a +4, it could still give you a totally correct answer. So for those that factored out a -4, don't think you're doing it incorrectly. It could be right, just done in a different way. That's fine. All right, so now I'm going to move on to what I've had in purple. I got to do some grouping. That's why it's called factor by grouping. All right, it's all about the GCF, the greatest common factor. So Joshua, what's your greatest common factor of the first group? You did? So I'll probably be off by a negative, but what did you factor out? The greatest common factor. Oh, I see. Okay, I thought you were saying you were off by a negative. I got you. So you factored out a -x out of this whole thing, which means you change the sign. I would have a +2x and then like a -1. Okay, so then what is your GCF, your greatest common factor of the second group? 7, a +7, which means we are left with a 2x minus 1 again. Good, because we needed those to match up, and they do. Am I missing anything else? Ooh, the 4. So the GCF is still there. That 4 is still there. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna look at that in just a sec here. So let's finish off with the last GCF. Greatest common factor now, what they have in common is now a 2x minus 1. So we're gonna factor out the 2x minus 1. And we've got the -x plus 7 left. And we've still got the GCF of 4. Okay, which, so Manatha, you had a -4 out front. And whenever you multiply by a negative, it changes the sign, right? So if you had a -4 out front, it probably would have changed the sign on one of these guys. Maybe it changed this one to like a +x minus 7, but it would leave the other one the same. I can't change the sign on all 3 of them. But if you went from from a +4 to a -4, then you would have to change the sign on one of these other 2 factors. So negative times negative gives us a positive. So I guess if I change it twice, it kind of goes back to where it was, is my point. So if you change this from a +4 to a -4, then you can we change the signs on this one to a +x and a -7. We change the sign on both of those. So again, like a negative is basically a positive. It gets back to where you started. Does that kind of clarify it all? All right. So honestly, I don't care whichever way you wrote this. These are both totally correct answers. Yep. Okay, good question. All right, so then let's look at number 3 here. I'm going to start with the GCF again, the greatest common factor again. All right, so let's see here. All right, so Timena, what is our GCF in this case? Oh, an X. It's not even a number this time? It's X? You're right. 7 is a prime number, and it doesn't go into 36 or whatever. So you can't factor out a constant, but we did get the variable. We got an X factored out. So that means these all got like knocked down a power. It went from 7x cubed to 7x squared, and 48x squared to 48x. The 36x is now just the 36. All right, so we factored out a GCF still, but our GCF was an X this time. All right, so let's go back to the same thing we were doing before. Okay, I guess here's my question. Why do I know I have to do factor by grouping on this? Is it just because it's in my factor by grouping lesson, or like what could indicate I have to do it this way? Usually I'm just like, okay, what multiplies to be 36 and adds up to 48? That's what we did like last time. How do I know I have to do grouping? You guys online have any thoughts?
Would it be because of the coefficient in front of the x squared?
Yes. Oh my goodness. That 7 is like the indicator that, oh my goodness, I can't just look at the 36 and the 48. I got to look at the 7 also. Yeah. So having any other coefficient than 1 in front of your x squared, if there's anything other than 1 in front of your x squared, we're probably going to look at factor by grouping. Nice. Okay. So that's why we have to start the way we do. We have to start using the 7 and the 36. This is going to be really big. What's your 7 times 36? To what? 252. Oh my goodness, which means I've got to break that into like a bunch of factors. I know I could have like it could be a 1 times 52, or sorry, 252. It could be, let's see, it's an even number, right? So 2 times what? 70 what? Six and 42, okay. What's my 2 times though? Two times 100 and something, or what? 126. So I've got some options. Let's check these first of all, and their negatives. -1 and -252. Two negatives multiply to be a positive. It will multiply to be this positive 252. I could have a -2 and then -126, -6 and a -42. I probably have more and more options. Let's just start checking these ones, and then if we need to keep going, we can. Do any of these add up to 48? Which ones? The 6, okay, so the both positives, 6 and the 42. Okay, those add up to 48. Honestly, if none of these worked, I would keep on going. I would look at more factors. I'd factor out like a 12, or I just keep going. We found it though, so we can stop on the factoring part, and I guess factoring your 252. Now we've got to take that middle term, in our case, the 48x. We're going to break that up into 2 pieces. Based off the numbers we found, the 6 and the 42, I'm going to go with a positive 6x and a positive 42x. All right, I have not changed the 36. I haven't changed the 7x squared. And I still have the GCF, the greatest common factor of x, out front. All right, so then let's do some grouping. It's called factor by grouping. We're going to group the first two together, which the GCF on that I think is just a straight up x. So I have 7x plus 6 left. My second group, let's see, what goes into 42 and 36? 6 goes into both. What do I have left then? Yeah, so 6 times 7 is your 42. So 7x and then, yeah, plus 6. 6 times 6 is 36. There we go, which this is kind of what we wanted. We wanted them to have the same leftovers, the 7x plus 6. Good, good. And then I have still that other GCF of x up front there. All right, so I need to do some more factor by grouping. I guess not factor by grouping, some more GCF, more greatest common factor. So what else do they have in common now that I can factor out? You guys see anything very similar? You guys don't see anything similar that I can factor out? Oh, the 7x plus 6 and another 7x plus 6. It's what they have in common. So I'm going to factor out the 7x plus 6, and what I have left over were, let's see, the x and the 6. So x plus 6. All right, am I done? Oh, I'm missing the x again. People do this all the time. Just be aware, keep track of that GCF you had at the beginning. Yeah.
Does it matter what number you put first?
Ooh, good question. So if you had put it that way, or if you put the x and then the x plus 6 and the 7x plus 6, if you put it like that, is that what you're talking about?
No, like when you put in the spaces of 32.
Oh, okay. So yeah, up to this point right here. Yeah, so if I found 6 and a 42, that multiply be the 252. So if we did, instead of the 6 first, the 42 first. Okay, so let's pick it up from there. If I do the GCF out of this group, I factor out a, what, 7x? The GCF out of this one would be a 6. So I factor out a 6, I'm left with x plus 6. Okay, which then means that they have in common an x plus 6. And the leftovers are the 7x plus 6. Okay, and I still have the GCF of x. So actually, I got the same thing, just written in a different order. So that would be just fine. Okay, so if you put the stuff that you chose as your factors, if you put them in a different order, it'll get you the same answer, which kind of makes sense because 6 plus 42 is 48. 42 plus 6, still 48. So like the order for addition doesn't really matter. I should get the same answer. Yep. All right. So then, Manatu, what was your question about the 4x? Oh, I forgot an x. Is it this one that I brought down? Okay, got it. All right, so then let's look at number 4 here. First of all, is there a GCF? No GCF, nothing that goes into 5 and 11 and 2? No, those are all prime numbers, not much I can do with that. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next step then. I'm going to multiply my 5 times 2, which is 10, and I need the factors of 10. All right, so let's see, I can either have a 5 times 2, or I could have a -5 and a -2. That multiplies to be positive 10. Anything else? 5 and a 2? Anything else that multiplies to be 10? What do you think, Frida? Anything else that multiplies to be 10? 10 and 1. Okay. In fact, 10 and 1 or negative 10 and negative 1 also multiplies to be the 10. Okay, which of these add up to the b value? Which ones add up to 11? A positive 11. Yeah, 4 options here, people. Which ones add up to the 11? What are you going with, William? Which ones of these add up to 11? The 10 and the 1. Okay, I'm trying to add up to that middle. So I'm going to go with 10 and the 1, and I'm going to break the 11 down into a 10x plus a 1x. I don't really need to put the 1 in front of it. I'll just put 10x plus x. And the rest of it is still the same. I still have the 5x squared and the 2. All right. So let's do some grouping. Frida, you ready?
Yeah.
All right. So out of my first group, what is the GCF? 5? Anything else, or just 5? And an x, a 5x? Okay, so if I factor out the 5x, what do I have left? All right. Now, if I did this right, then my next group should still have an x plus 2 left. What is my GCF, my greatest common factor of the x plus 2? This is kind of tricky. You what? You don't have one? There is a single number that I can factor out, but we usually don't do that because it's kind of, I don't know, somewhat insignificant usually. Yeah, I can do x divided by 1 or 2 divided by 1. So you can factor out a 1. The only reason I care about doing that here is because now I can see the GCF now is your x plus 2. It actually matches. And I would have a 1 left. I wanted to see what would be left over if I factored out that x plus 2. Okay, so the x plus 2 factors out, and I have left a 5x and a positive 1, so 5x plus 1. All right, and I think that's your final answer. There was no GCF on this one. All right, you guys have any questions? You guys are even okay with the 1? Factoring out a 1? Yeah. It's not going to tell you how to factor. It's just going to say, you know, factor this polynomial. So you guys will have to know if you're going to use like the formulas we did last time, the, you know, difference of squares, difference of cubes, the sum of cubes, if you're going to have to use one of those formulas, or if you're going to do factor by grouping, it's going to kind of mix it all up. You have to kind of differentiate when you use which. Okay. All right. Let's see here.